How does your role differ when the team you're covering is home versus when they're away on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting thing about being, I guess being the first of all, I'll give you a general answer based off of irregardless of your sport. So when you're at home, you're responsible for making sure that all of the hosting duties are done. So you're making sure that all of your media seat cards are out, so that knowing exactly where each media person is going to sit in the press box. You're in charge of making sure all your students know exactly what they're doing in the game to make sure that TV's getting their stats, media are getting their stats. They're keeping track of this game note. They're keeping track of this record. Making sure that media has food, make sure the food is provided. So there's a lot more that you have to do when you're at home versus being on the road. When you're on the road, all you really have to do is worry about kind of your team, and then making sure that your recap for the website is done, and then updating your social media. When you're at home, you have to do so much more because you're the host. So everyone's going to come to you if they have a problem, or if they have a question. Everybody's going to come to you. So it's kind of one of those things where you're kind of like a CEO when you're at home events. You just kind of have to float around and make sure that you're checking on everybody. Everybody's doing well. And if they do have a problem, they know where to go to get that solved. So it's there's a lot of fun being at home, but it's so much easier being on the road.
Yeah, I bet. So what are some other duties, responsibilities that you have while you're not at games, like when you're at the office or something like that?
Yep, for sure. So a lot of what we do as well is archiving. So we have to make sure that when we do have something great happen, or when we have this major story that we're pushing out, we have to make sure that we're efficiently archiving those stories and stats and photos, video as well, to make sure that whoever comes after us can still find all of this information. So day to day, we're doing a lot of archiving. With that, we're also exchanging and being in constant contact with all of the other communication directors within a given sport. So for example, for this week, we're going down to Miami for baseball. I was communicating via email with Miami's sports information director, and we're exchanging our word rosters, our stat crew rosters, our season stats, last 5 box scores, each team's school logo. We're exchanging headshots for their video board. So those are all things that you have to get as the host SID or the host communications director, that you're responsible for making sure that you have all this stuff and everything runs well. Whereas when you're on the road, you can just go and kind of do your thing. You can sit there and just work on your social media and your recap and making sure that your guys are being fairly treated as far as the scoring goes, and then you're good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the best part of your job?
So the best part of my job is seeing the student athletes have success, and that could be on the field or it could be off the field. There's there are students that even in a challenging season, you can still find something to be excited about. If there's a student athlete that achieves a perfect 4.0 GPA or something, that's something that's still worth being celebrated. But it is always more fun when you're winning, as as the saying goes.
Yeah.
So like this year, it's been awesome to kind of be around our baseball team and see kind of the way they've interacted, the way they've meshed and gelled together, and see them when they're trailing in a game, and you can't tell by their body language if they're trailing or if they're winning, just because they are such a close group, and they have amazing team chemistry, and they have a Jimmy V, don't ever give up type attitude. Like down 8-1 in the game earlier this season, they come back to win that. Best start in school history. They've just done so many incredible things, and there's nothing better than being with a team that's being successful. And there's also taking care of stuff in the community and getting it done in the classroom as well. So I think when seeing the student athletes, when they put in that hard work day after day, when it pays off for them, that's what's the most rewarding for me.
Nice. So on the flip side, what's the most difficult part about your job?
Yep. So the most difficult part of my job would probably be just the exact opposite. When you're in the challenging season, things aren't going well, and your student athletes look like they're always down and out, beat down. They come to practice, in a bad mood. They leave practice in a bad mood. You have to get them, and it's tough too when you have to get them to talk to media after a disappointing result, or during a difficult season. That's really tough, and you're trying to figure out ways to spin that for student athletes and show them that even though we lost today, we had such and such, we did this really good, we rebounded really well, we tallied more hits than the other team, we were really good with runners in scoring positional, we had more 2-out RBIs for referring to a sport like baseball. So that's really challenging, and I think the other part of this kind of challenge for our business is that is what I always tell students as well that want to get into the field of sports. Sports happens 2 times a day. They happen on nights and on weekends. So if you're not willing to give up your nights and weekends, then it's really tough to have a career in sports. And I mean, I say that on the day when we have March Madness, beginning, and so there's a tournament going on, and sports are happening during the day. But typically, sports don't usually happen during the 8 to 5.
Right.
So working in sports means you're not going to have an 8 to 5. It means that you're going to put in a ton of hours outside of that window, and that can be challenging for individuals with families, with children. Just trying to balance everything and make sure that you're able to spend enough time with your family and satisfy all your needs there, as well as getting your job done at a high level.
Okay, awesome. And so, more on a positive note, what would you say is your the favorite moment you ever experienced on the job? Maybe favorite place you visited, something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite place I visited was Tempe, Arizona. We went to Arizona State in 2014. It was phenomenal. I'd never been to Arizona before. In fact, that was my first time on the West Coast.
Okay.
And then Tempe, Arizona was absolutely beautiful. We went in February, so it was about 80, but not too hot. It was gorgeous. I love Tempe. I love it as a city. I love the campus at Arizona State, and our team performed well there. So it was a great trip all in all. I would say that the best experience that I've had, or I guess the most celebratory thing that I've had in my time would be the 2015 season. NC State softball team was working with them, and they went up to James Madison for the NCAA regional that year, and they had never advanced out of a regional before, and seeing the team win 3 games to go to their first super regional in program history, and this being a part of that celebration, and seeing all those student athletes jumping around up and down and get the Gatorade bath the Powerade bath onto our head coach, and then and everybody else is just throwing water on each other, and they're just jumping up and down, they're just hugging. And then when you go back through that, you're looking at those photos days afterwards, they just keep replaying in your mind. And there's nothing better. I'm getting excited just thinking about it right now. There's nothing better than seeing those student athletes put in all that work all year. They put themselves in a good position for the NCAA tournament. The NCAA committee rewarded them by sending them to James Madison, a place where they were able to get out of a regional for the first time in program history. And they're still the only team in the state of North Carolina that's ever been out of an NCAA regional for softball. So that's still a stat that, amazing stat, I'm geeking out a little bit talking about my stat side.
Yeah.
So those are the type of things I really, geek out about and I really enjoy.
Nice. So you were mentioning you do a lot of social media with the job and, StatCrew software and all that. So how has technology affected your job as compared to maybe even when you first started, 6 years ago or something like that? Yeah,
so with the emergence of social media, technology is used pretty much every day. It's something I do, and it's something that there's really no escaping. I sit at home, and then just to make sure that you're up to speed on everything that's happening in your program, I get alerts anytime someone mentions us in a tweet or something. So if someone mentions Pac B-ball, or someone mentions at NC State baseball on Twitter, I'm getting an alert to know exactly what's out there about our student athletes, what people are saying about our program, so that if there's something that's incorrect, I can then correct that before it gets too far down the road. So I think that's kind of one of the important things and kind of ways that technology has immersed. I talked to a lot of historians. Bruce Winkworth, who was the sports information director here for many years before I was able to take over here, he always talks about how there was a time when he first started when you would have to there were no live stats, there was no live video. So what you would do is after the game was over, you would fax the box score from the game over to the opposing SID, and then the opposing team wouldn't know, or the opposing SID, if they didn't travel, wouldn't know what the score of the game was until they got that fax. And then once they got that fax, they would know, okay, looks like we won 5-1 today, But there, the technology wasn't at the point it is now, where you can sit on your phone and be able to get updates on, and Twitter and social media. Twitter and Instagram weren't out there then during that time either. So it wasn't like you could go to Twitter and open it up and see, get a running live game update of what's happening in the game. So I think it's so interesting and so amazing how much the business has transformed from the past 20, say 30 years. And I think it's transforming even more. Every day there are new apps that are being put out. The phones, the cameras are getting so much better so that you can take better pictures. You can do better video, and I think that's always something that's so much better, and it's making our student athlete experience a lot greater.
Okay, awesome. So I'm sure technology is one of them, but what would you say are some other emerging trends possibly in this industry?
Yeah, so it's interesting because communication is kind of in the title depending upon which title you use. And I think that's the most important skill that you have to be successful in this business. You have to have the ability to write well, speak well, and communicate effectively. If you can do all those three things, you'll have success in this business. Because we're communicating constantly. So whether we're communicating with our student athletes, we're communicating with our head coaches, we're communicating with the media, we're communicating with other individuals at other schools like ourselves, we're communicating with the ACC office, we're communicating with the NCAA office. There's so many individuals that we're in constant communication with, and if you're not able to balance and juggle all that communication, then it's something that you could really struggle with.
Awesome. All right, so more about just kind of some traits and qualities that are good for the job. What traits would you recommend to someone trying to break into this industry?
Yeah. Well, I think in order to break into this industry, I think you have to be humble. You have to be very humble and understand that the first job that you're given when you're helping out with this business won't be something glamorous. So I remember I got my start. I was down in the basement of the Weisiger Brown building at the time, and I was organizing former players' photos and news articles. So we were talking about archiving earlier. So that's what I was doing for an entire summer. So I was just down in the basement, and I was just looking through everyone's, all these files that have gotten out of order, and I was putting everything back in order, alphabetizing them by last name, and I was taking every photo of an individual and every newspaper article and putting those into folders and making sure that everything in that drawer was adequately labeled. And it seemed like something that was terrible, and it seemed like, just dirty work that, somebody should be doing, not something I should be doing. But I think the thing that was great about that experience is that, I really took ownership of that project. I was really humble because I didn't feel like that, I deserved to be doing anything greater because I didn't know much about this business, and I was just trying to get into it and learn more. So I think from that experience, Annabelle then saw so much more in me, and she allowed me to take on bigger projects, and she gave me a lot more responsibility based off of my ability to handle something so small. So you never know who's taking note of what you're doing, no matter how big or how small the project is. So I think that you need to always give 100% to whatever you're doing, and always be the best that you're trying to do. So I think that really goes a long way in this business. So just being humble, willing to learn, eager, ask good questions. When there's something that you want to know, ask it. If there's something that it's something that we could tell you, we'll usually do that. If there's something that you want to do, have that driven mindset where if you see there's an awesome story about someone, do that. Come to me and say, hey, I want to write this story on this kid here. He's doing really great. There's never been a time in our business where we've had too much content. There's no such thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as having too much content on your website or too many posts on social media or something like that. So I think it's really imperative that whoever is trying to break into the business, that you have all those qualities.
Okay. And so, what professional advice would you give to yourself, 10 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I would do differently if I could go back is I would continue learning, and I would continue growing academically. I would continue my education. It's one of those things where now I look back at 29 years old. I think, could I have potentially already completed my master's degree? Could I be working towards a doctorate now? It's one of those things where I never want to stop learning, but it was kind of one of those things where I maybe put off learning for a little while, and I wasn't doing as much as far as attending conferences, as far as reading books, as far as watching a lot of listening to podcasts, or watching videos. So there's this awesome website that I use now. It's called Athletic Director U. And basically what it is current athletic directors now, and individuals in the field of sport have taken time to shoot these videos or do these podcasts with other individuals, telling people, what it's like to be in this chair, what it's like to be the athletic director at NC State, or what it's like to be a senior associate athletic director at, Towson University, or what it's like to, be the compliance director at the University of Miami. So these individuals are really taking this time to help other individuals like myself out, and it's something that gosh, I can't find the word I'm looking for, but I love, enamored by it. It's not the word I'm looking for, but anyway, so it's something that I really fascinated.
Fascinated, yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Excuse me. Fascinated. I'm fascinated by things like that and learning, and continuing to grow, because you're never at a point where you can't grow anymore.
Awesome. And then just a little fun one to end this. Who has been your favorite player to watch during your tenure? And it can be from individual sports, and maybe just a brief description of why.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with volleyball. My favorite player to watch in volleyball my time here has to be Caitlin Carney. Caitlin Carney was one of my favorite players. She was a great kid off the court. She was great academically. And she came in as a freshman, and she really had an immediate impact as a freshman. They're the freshmen that come in and they look like freshmen, and then there are freshmen that come in and just like, I'm going to do big things here. And having had the opportunity to work with her all 4 years of her career here, I got to watch her grow, and I saw how much success she was having. And then in her senior season, she was able to surpass 1,000 career kills. She's actually the program record holder for career blocks. And that's all time, so that's something that's incredible to have been a part of all 4 of those years for her, and then see her and just be able to share in that moment with her. From there we go on to rifle. Rifle would be Lucas Kozinski. Lucas Kozinski was in the Olympics a few years ago. He qualified. It was one of those things where once the process kind of got started, it really took off for him. He was really dialed into. He used this acronym of WIN, and it was stood for What's Important Now. And then from there, he took advantage of all of his opportunities. He would go, and he said it wasn't so much as thinking about qualifying for the Olympics as I want to have my best performance today. I want to have my best performance tomorrow. I want to have my best performance at this event that I'm shooting at. And then from there, it just blossomed and things went perfectly for him. And everything fell into place for him to be able to go to Rio in 2016 for the Olympics. And that was something phenomenal. That was amazing for me to cover because I'd never been able to cover an Olympics before. So that was awesome to have someone competing there and be able to have a close interest in the results and what's going to happen there. And he fired the top American score. So that was amazing. From softball, it would be Emily Wyman. She was a pitcher here that we had. She's also atop the program record books for numerous things, probably innings pitched, wins, strikeouts, you name it, appearances. She was just an amazing player, and she was an amazing person off the field as well. I got to know her family, her mom and dad well, because she was so great, and she would just talk about, this is Justin does this, Justin does that, and student athletes, you don't do it for the praise, but it's always great when student athletes take the time, and parents take the time to realize the job we do and know that we have a tough job, and that we're working a lot of hours, we're gone a lot, we're traveling, we're away from our families. So whenever someone takes the opportunity to do that, it just really makes you feel good as the communications director. And then with the baseball program, I would probably say Brian Brown would be probably my favorite student athlete I've covered here. He was a guy who overcame a lot of adversity. Last year was his senior year, and as a junior, he thought that he might be a guy that could get drafted, and he wasn't drafted as a junior. And then he was kind of disappointed about it, but instead of like pouting and sulking, what he did was he got in the weight room. He started working harder. He got into watching a lot more video of himself. He worked with our pitching coach. He wanted to know how he could get better in every aspect of his game. And then from there, what that translated to was him leading the conference in ERA for a period of time. It led to him being the ACC Pitcher of the Year. It led to him being the ACC Pitcher of the Week a couple different times. It led to him being the ACC Scholar Athlete of the Year, which is an impressive feat to be able to be the ACC Pitcher of the Year and the ACC Scholar Athlete of the Year in the same year. That just tells you about someone who's not only getting it done on the field, but also getting it done academically and in the community as well. So he's probably one of my favorite stories as well.
Okay, awesome. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Yep, no problem.
Yep, absolutely.